I hope tonight changes everything. I whispered to myself as I stood outside Victoria's family mansion. I adjusted my jacket, took a deep breath, and smiled. After tonight, I'll finally feel like part of her family. Victoria opened the front door. "There you are," she said. "You look beautiful." "Thanks. Come inside. Everyone is waiting." I followed her into the dining room. The long table was already full. Margaret Hayes looked at me from head to toe before forcing a fake smile. "So, Ethan finally arrived. Good evening, Mrs. Hayes." She glanced toward an empty chair beside Victoria, then laughed. "Oh no, that seat isn't for you." I frowned. "I'm sorry, Liam belongs beside Victoria tonight. You can sit with the household staff." The room became silent for 1 second. Then laughter filled the air. Liam pulled out the chair beside Victoria with a proud grin. "Thank you, Mrs. Hayes. I wouldn't want to disappoint anyone." Victoria didn't say a single word. I looked at her. "Victoria." She avoided my eyes. "Please, Ethan, just sit where my mother asked." Those words hit harder than I expected. I nodded slowly. "Of course." I walked to the small table near the kitchen where 2 housekeepers were eating quietly. One of them whispered, "Sir, you don't belong here." I forced a smile. "It's okay." But it wasn't okay. Dinner began while I watched from the corner of the room. Margaret raised her glass. A toast. Everyone lifted theirs. To my daughter, and to people who actually help successful women grow. She looked directly at Liam. "You've been wonderful." Liam smiled. "I'll only do my best." Margaret laughed. "Unlike some people who just follow successful women around." More laughter. I lowered my eyes and kept eating. Liam suddenly looked at me. "Ethan." "Yes." "What exactly do you do these days?" "I work as a financial strategist." "Oh." He laughed. "I thought Victoria was just being kind by keeping you around." Several relatives laughed again. Someone added, "Maybe he's planning to marry into money." Another voice said, "That's the smartest investment he's ever made." I stayed quiet. Inside, every word felt like another knife. Victoria finally spoke. "Let's change the subject." For 1 second, I thought she would defend me. Instead, she smiled at Liam. "So, tell everyone about the Singapore project." My heart sank. That project existed because I had spent months building the financial model behind it. Nobody knew. Nobody even asked. Liam proudly explained my work, as if it were his own. Everyone applauded. Margaret looked impressed. "See, Victoria? That's the kind of man every successful woman needs beside her." I looked at Victoria again. She simply smiled. Richard Hayes quietly cleared his throat. "Ethan." "Yes, sir." "How has work been?" I smiled politely. "It's been good." He nodded. "I'm glad." Before he could continue, Margaret interrupted. "Richard, don't make dinner boring." He looked down and stayed silent. I understood. Even he wasn't allowed to disagree. After another hour of jokes and conversations that reminded me I didn't belong, dinner finally ended. Guests slowly walked into the garden. I stood alone near the front door. Victoria finally came outside. "You're leaving already?" I looked at her. "I think it's best." She crossed her arms. "You could have tried harder tonight." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Tried harder?" "Yes. My family already thinks you don't fit into our world." I stayed silent. She continued. "You look too ordinary tonight." I stared at her. "I embarrassed you." She sighed. "Ethan, appearances matter." I felt something inside me break. "I spent years helping you build your company. I believed we were building a future together. I never cared about expensive clothes. I cared about us." She looked away. "That's exactly the problem." I nodded slowly. "I understand." She waited for me to argue. I didn't. I simply smiled. "Good night, Victoria." I walked toward my car without looking back. The drive home felt longer than ever. I kept hearing the laughter. I kept seeing the empty chair beside her. I kept asking myself one question. When did I become invisible? I parked outside my apartment and sat in silence. Maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe respect mattered more. My phone suddenly rang. The screen showed a name I hadn't seen in years. Daniel Ross, my former mentor. I answered. "Daniel." His voice sounded urgent. "Ethan, don't ask questions." "What happened?" "I just discovered something that changes everything." My heart started racing. "What are you talking about?" "Meet me tonight." "Immediately." "This can't wait." I hope tonight changes everything. I whispered to myself as I stood outside Victoria's family mansion. I adjusted my jacket, took a deep breath, and smiled. After tonight, I'll finally feel like part of her family. Victoria opened the front door. There you are, she said. You look beautiful. Thanks. Come inside. Everyone is waiting. I followed her into the dining room. The long table was already full. Margaret Hayes looked at me from head to toe before forcing a fake smile. So, Ethan finally arrived. Good evening, Mrs. Hayes. She glanced toward an empty chair beside Victoria, then laughed. Oh no, that seat isn't for you. I frowned. I'm sorry, Liam belongs beside Victoria tonight. You can sit with the household staff. The room became silent for 1 second. Then laughter filled the air. Liam pulled out the chair beside Victoria with a proud grin. Thank you, Mrs. Hayes. I wouldn't want to disappoint anyone. Victoria didn't say a single word. I looked at her. Victoria. She avoided my eyes. Please, Ethan, just sit where my mother asked. Those words hit harder than I expected. I nodded slowly. Of course. I walked to the small table near the kitchen where 2 housekeepers were eating quietly. One of them whispered, Sir, you don't belong here. I forced a smile. It's okay. But it wasn't okay. Dinner began while I watched from the corner of the room. Margaret raised her glass. A toast. Everyone lifted theirs. To my daughter, and to people who actually help successful women grow. She looked directly at Liam. You've been wonderful. Liam smiled. I'll only do my best. Margaret laughed. Unlike some people who just follow successful women around. More laughter. I lowered my eyes and kept eating. Liam suddenly looked at me. Ethan. Yes. What exactly do you do these days? I work as a financial strategist. Oh, he laughed. I thought Victoria was just being kind by keeping you around. Several relatives laughed again. Someone added, maybe he's planning to marry into money. Another voice said, that's the smartest investment he's ever made. I stayed quiet. Inside, every word felt like another knife. Victoria finally spoke. Let's change the subject. For 1 second, I thought she would defend me. Instead, she smiled at Liam. So, tell everyone about the Singapore project. My heart sank. That project existed because I had spent months building the financial model behind it. Nobody knew. Nobody even asked. Liam proudly explained my work, as if it were his own. Everyone applauded. Margaret looked impressed. See, Victoria? That's the kind of man every successful woman needs beside her. I looked at Victoria again. She simply smiled. Richard Hayes quietly cleared his throat. Ethan. Yes, sir. How has work been? I smiled politely. It's been good. He nodded. I'm glad. Before he could continue, Margaret interrupted. Richard, don't make dinner boring. He looked down and stayed silent. I understood. Even he wasn't allowed to disagree. After another hour of jokes and conversations that reminded me I didn't belong, dinner finally ended. Guests slowly walked into the garden. I stood alone near the front door. Victoria finally came outside. You're leaving already? I looked at her. I think it's best. She crossed her arms. You could have tried harder tonight. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tried harder? Yes. My family already thinks you don't fit into our world. I stayed silent. She continued. You look too ordinary tonight. I stared at her. I embarrassed you. She sighed. Ethan, appearances matter. I felt something inside me break. I spent years helping you build your company. I believed we were building a future together. I never cared about expensive clothes. I cared about us. She looked away. That's exactly the problem. I nodded slowly. I understand. She waited for me to argue. I didn't. I simply smiled. Good night, Victoria. I walked toward my car without looking back. The drive home felt longer than ever. I kept hearing the laughter. I kept seeing the empty chair beside her. I kept asking myself one question. When did I become invisible? I parked outside my apartment and sat in silence. Maybe love wasn't enough. Maybe respect mattered more. My phone suddenly rang. The screen showed a name I hadn't seen in years. Daniel Ross, my former mentor. I answered. Daniel. His voice sounded urgent. Ethan, don't ask questions. What happened? I just discovered something that changes everything. My heart started racing. What are you talking about? Meet me tonight. Immediately. This can't wait. My hands were still shaking when I parked outside Daniel Ross's office. It was almost midnight. The building was dark except for one light on the top floor. I walked inside. Daniel? I'm here, Ethan. He stood beside a conference table covered with folders and documents. You sounded worried. I am. What happened? He looked straight into my eyes. Sit down. I pulled out a chair. This is about Victoria's company, isn't it? Yes. Is she in trouble? He sighed. More than she knows. I frowned. I don't understand. Daniel slid a thick file across the table. Open it. I did. The first page carried my signature. My heart skipped a beat. I remember this. You should. It changed both your lives. I looked at him. Years ago, when Victoria wanted investors, nobody believed in her. I know. You built the financial system that made Hayes Corporation possible. I remember every sleepless night. You created the investment strategy. Yes. You designed a risk model. I did. You predicted market changes before anyone else. I nodded quietly. Daniel leaned forward. But whose name received all the public credit? I lowered my eyes. Victoria's. And why? Because I loved her. I believed we were building a future together. I didn't care whose name appeared in newspapers. I only wanted her dream to succeed. Daniel slowly shook his head. You gave away far more than credit. He pointed toward another page. Read this. I scanned the document. Then my breathing stopped. My approval. Exactly. The company's core financial system can only be updated or transferred with your written approval. I stared at him. I completely forgot. You forgot because you trusted her. I trusted both of you. Daniel looked disappointed. Victoria never even read the final agreement. She assumed everything already belonged to her. I laughed bitterly. That sounds like her. He folded his hands. Ethan, there's something else. What? James Walker. I looked up. The chairman? Yes. What about him? He wants to invest $300 million into Hayes Corporation. I blinked. That's impossible. No, it's happening. He already reviewed every financial report. So what's the problem? Daniel answered quietly. He doesn't trust companies. He trusts people. I felt a strange feeling growing inside me. What does that have to do with me? He trusts your models. My models? He studied your old work years ago. He said nobody understands long-term financial stability better than Ethan Carter. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. But nobody knows I built those systems. He knows. How? Daniel smiled slightly. I told him. I stared in silence. You kept my secret for years. I did. So why tell him now? Because I was tired of watching someone else receive all the praise while you carried all the weight. I looked down at my hands. So the investment depends on one thing. My approval. Daniel nodded. Without your signature, the deal cannot move forward. The room became painfully quiet. Images from dinner flooded my mind. Margaret's laughter. Liam sitting beside Victoria. Victoria calling me ordinary. Daniel finally spoke. You don't owe them anything. I know, but I still love her. I know that too. He stood and placed a hand on my shoulder. Love should never cost your dignity. His words stayed with me long after I left. Outside, the cold night air felt heavier than before. Instead of driving home, I drove to my brother Noah's apartment. He opened the door wearing old sweatpants. Ethan, can I come in? You never have to ask. We sat in the kitchen. He poured coffee into 2 mugs. You look terrible. I feel worse. What happened? I told him everything. The dinner. The humiliation. Daniel. The investment. He listened without interrupting. When I finished, he remained silent for a moment. Then he asked one question. Do you still think she loves you? I couldn't answer. He sighed. Brother, love without respect becomes slavery. I looked at him. You've spent years making excuses for people who never defended you. I kept believing she'd change. And did she? I slowly shook my head. No. You built her future. She treated you like yesterday's news. His words hurt because they were true. So what do I do now? He looked directly at me. For once, choose yourself. I drove home before sunrise. Sleep never came. Every memory fought against every painful truth. Part of me wanted to protect Victoria one last time. Another part whispered that I had already sacrificed enough. As the sun rose outside my window, my phone rang. An unknown number appeared. I answered. "This is Ethan Carter." A calm, confident voice spoke. "Good morning, Mr. Carter. This is James Walker." I sat upright. I've been hoping we'd finally speak. My heart pounded. He paused for only a second before asking the question that would change everything. "Mr. Carter, do you still stand behind Hayes Corporation?" My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. James Walker waited patiently on the other end of the phone. "Mr. Carter," his voice remained calm. "Do you still stand behind Hayes Corporation?" I closed my eyes. Every painful memory returned at once. Margaret telling me to sit with the servants. Liam stealing my place. Victoria refusing to defend me. Her final words. Asterisk, "You look too ordinary." Asterisk. I took a slow breath. Then I answered. "No." Silence filled the call. James finally spoke. "I understand." "You understand?" "I've spent many years investing in companies. I've learned something important. Successful businesses are built by respected people, not by people who are used." I didn't know what to say. He continued. "Your answer automatically suspends the investment process. I expected that. I wish you the best, Mr. Carter." "Thank you." The call ended. I stared at my phone. One word. That was all it took. One word changed everything. I wasn't celebrating. I wasn't smiling. I simply felt free. Less than an hour later, my phone buzzed. Then again. Then again. Victoria. Ignored. Victoria. Ignored. Victoria. Ignored. Soon the screen filled with missed calls. Then messages arrived. "Where are you? Call me now. This isn't funny." A few minutes later, another message appeared. "James Walker just suspended the investment." "What did you do?" I locked my phone without replying. For years, I had answered every call within seconds. Today, silence became my answer. Around noon, Daniel called. "Ethan." "Yes." Everything happened exactly as expected. The board is panicking. I figured. Victoria has no idea why the investment stopped. "I know. Will you meet me?" "Where?" "My office." "I'll be there." An hour later, I walked into his office. Daniel looked tired. I've never seen executives panic this fast. I sat down. "How bad is it?" "Worse every minute." He handed me several reports. The board is demanding answers. Shareholders are asking questions. Employees are already worried. I slowly placed the papers back on the desk. I never wanted innocent people to suffer. Daniel nodded. "I know, but remember, you didn't destroy anything. You simply stopped protecting people who refused to protect you." Before I could answer, my phone rang again. Victoria. This time I answered. "Ethan." Her voice exploded through the speaker. "What did you do?" I stayed calm. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play games." "James Walker froze our investment." "I know." "You know?" "Yes." She sounded furious. "Fix it." I waited. She never asked how I was. She never apologized. She never mentioned dinner. Only money. Only business. "Victoria." "What? Is that why you called?" "What else should I call about?" I closed my eyes. "Nothing." "What does that mean?" "It means this conversation is over. You can't do this." "I already did." I ended the call. Daniel looked at me. "How do you feel?" I thought for a moment. Sad, but lighter. Meanwhile, inside Hayes Corporation, I could almost imagine the chaos. Meetings, arguments, fear, phones ringing without stopping. Daniel's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and sighed. "Liam is speaking to the board." "What is he saying?" "He claims you're throwing a childish tantrum." I laughed quietly. "That sounds like him." Daniel continued reading. "He's telling everyone you'll come crawling back." I shook my head. "He still doesn't know me." "No, he never did." Daniel stood. "There's someone I'd like you to meet." "Who?" "An investor." "I'm not interested." "You will be." 20 minutes later, a woman entered the office carrying a tablet and several folders. She smiled politely. "You must be Ethan." "I am." "I'm Sophia Bennett. It's nice to meet you." She sat across from me. "I've spent the last week studying your financial models." I looked surprised. "You've seen them?" "Every page." "They're brilliant." Nobody had ever said those words to me before. I smiled awkwardly. "Thank you." She leaned forward. "I don't care about titles. I don't care whose company became famous. I care about results." She tapped one of the reports. These numbers tell me exactly who built that business. I felt something inside me soften. For years, people had looked at my clothes, my watch, my car. Sophia looked at my work. She asked thoughtful questions. She listened without interrupting. She challenged my ideas without insulting me. For the first time in years, I didn't feel invisible. When our meeting ended, she stood and offered her hand. I hope this won't be our last conversation. It won't. I'd like us to work together someday. So would I. After she left, Daniel smiled. Notice the difference? I nodded. She respected me before she knew anything about my bank account. Exactly. That's what real professionals do. As I walked toward my car, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't a call. It was a breaking news alert. Then another. And another. I opened the first headline. Breaking news. Hayes Corporation officially loses $300 million international investment. A second headline appeared seconds later. Market confidence in Hayes Corporation drops overnight following suspended deal. I stared at the screen. The storm had finally begun.
3 days passed before Daniel called again. Ethan, you sound serious. I am. Has something happened? Olivia finished her investigation. I stood from my desk. What did she find? More than anyone expected. I took a deep breath. Tell me. She found hidden bank transfers, missing financial reports, and leaked company files. I frowned. Liam? Every trail leads to him. I remained silent. Daniel continued. Olivia didn't tell the board. Why not? She went straight to Victoria. I looked out the office window. How did Victoria react? She refused to believe it. That doesn't surprise me. She said Liam was loyal. I smiled sadly. She used to say the same thing about me. Dayton Insight. Olivia warned her that feelings don't change facts. What happened next? Victoria demanded more proof. Later that afternoon, Daniel called again. You won't believe this. What now? Victoria caught Liam herself. Doing what? Destroying financial records. I stopped walking. You're serious? He thought everyone had gone home. But Victoria returned to collect some documents. What did she see? He was feeding company files into a shredder. I closed my eyes. So Olivia was right. Completely. Daniel described everything exactly as Victoria later told him. Liam. Victoria's voice had echoed through the office. What are you doing? Liam froze. For a second, he tried to smile, cleaning old files. Victoria walked closer. Those aren't old files. They're financial reports. He shrugged. You wouldn't understand. She grabbed a folder from his hands. What is this? He reached for it. Give it back. No. She opened the folder. Inside were fake invoices, altered account records, and secret payments. Victoria looked at him in disbelief. You changed these. He stayed silent. You manipulated our accounts? Still nothing. She stepped closer. Answer me. Finally he laughed. A cold, heartless laugh. So you finally figured it out. Victoria's face turned pale. Why? Because it was easy. You trusted me. You trusted everyone except the only man who actually loved you. She shook her head. No. Oh, yes. I leaked confidential information. I redirected company money. I made sure every mistake pointed toward Ethan. Her voice trembled. Why would you do that? He smiled. Power. I wanted your company. I wanted your influence. And honestly, he looked straight at her. I never respected you. She stared at him without speaking. You were arrogant. You ignored anyone who disagreed with you. All I had to do was flatter your ego. His words hit her like a storm. You defended me against Ethan. You trusted me over him. You practically handed me control. Tears filled her eyes. I loved him. No, you loved what he gave you. You just didn't realize it until he stopped. For the first time, Liam wasn't pretending anymore. The mask had fallen. Everything Victoria believed about him disappeared in a single conversation. Daniel ended the story with one quiet sentence. Security escorted Liam out of the building. I slowly sat down. I never wanted this. I know. I only wanted the truth. Now she has it. Later that day, I met Sophia for lunch. She smiled as I arrived. You look different. Do I? Yes. You don't carry the same weight anymore. I laughed softly. I'm trying. She waited until our food arrived before speaking again. Daniel told me what happened. He talks too much. She smiled. Maybe, but I'm glad he did. I looked at her. So what's your advice? She leaned forward. Stop measuring your future by your past. I stayed quiet. She continued. Every conversation somehow comes back to Victoria. I know. Every success still feels like you're trying to prove something. She wasn't wrong. I spent years trying to earn love. You don't have to earn respect. The right people give it freely. I smiled. That's easy to say. It isn't. I learned it the hard way, too. I looked surprised. You. She nodded. I built my first company with people who only cared about money. They left the moment things became difficult. What did you do? I built another company with better people. She smiled. You can do the same. Her words stayed with me long after lunch ended. For the first time, I wasn't thinking about revenge. I was thinking about tomorrow. The following weeks passed quickly. Sophia introduced me to investors. Business owners requested meetings. Financial magazines began mentioning my work. People no longer saw me as someone's fiancé. They saw me as Ethan Carter. Every successful meeting restored another piece of my confidence. Every handshake reminded me that my value had never disappeared. It had simply been ignored. One afternoon, Sophia walked into my office holding a newspaper. She placed it on my desk. Look. The headline read, Financial genius behind major market predictions joins Bennett Capital. I laughed. I never imagined seeing my name in a headline. You earned it. No, you always deserved it. Those words meant more than she probably realized. That evening, I stayed late at the office reviewing investment reports. Most employees had already gone home. I packed my laptop and walked toward the elevator. As the doors opened, the receptionist stood nearby. Mr. Carter. Yes. Someone has been waiting outside for almost an hour. I frowned. Did they leave a name? She nodded slowly. It's Miss Victoria Hayes. My heart skipped a beat. I walked toward the glass entrance. Outside, under the fading evening light, Victoria stood alone. She looked nothing like the confident CEO I once knew. Her eyes were red. Her shoulders were heavy. In her trembling hand, she was holding the engagement ring I had given her years ago. She looked up as our eyes met. Neither of us spoke, but I knew this conversation would change both our lives. I pushed open the glass door and stepped outside. Victoria stood a few feet away, holding the engagement ring with both hands. The confident woman who once commanded boardrooms could barely meet my eyes. Ethan, she whispered. I nodded. Victoria. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Finally, she held out the ring. I've been carrying this all day. I looked at it without reaching for it. I remember the day I gave it to you. So do I. You promised we'd build a life together. Tears filled her eyes. I know. I took a slow breath. What brings you here? She looked down. I came to say something I should have said a long time ago. I waited. I'm sorry. Her voice cracked. I'm truly sorry. I remained silent. She wiped her eyes. My pride became more important than our relationship. I thought success meant I was always right. I stopped listening. I stopped appreciating you. I ignored every warning because I believed I couldn't fail. She looked at me again. I failed anyway. I listened without interrupting. She continued. My father tried to tell me. Daniel tried to tell me. Even Olivia warned me. But I believed Liam. I believed the person who flattered me instead of the person who loved me. The pain in her voice sounded real. I don't expect you to forget everything. I only want one chance to make things right. I closed my eyes for a moment. Images from the past returned one after another. Margaret telling me to sit with the household staff. Liam laughing in my face. Victoria staying silent. Long nights spent building financial models while everyone else slept. Business victories celebrated without my name. Birthday dinner she canceled because meetings mattered more. Promises that slowly turned into excuses. I opened my eyes. You know what hurt the most? She shook her head. It wasn't your mother's insults. It wasn't Liam's lies. It wasn't even losing credit for my work. She looked at me carefully. It was watching the woman I loved pretend none of it mattered. Fresh tears rolled down her cheeks. I know. No, you know now. But back then, I was standing beside you, and I still felt completely alone. She covered her mouth as she cried. I never realized how much pain I caused. I believe you. She took one hopeful step forward. Then please, give me another chance. We can fix this. We can start over. I smiled sadly. I wanted that more than anything. And now, I gently reached toward the ring. For a brief second, hope returned to her face. Instead of putting it in my pocket, I carefully placed it back into her trembling hand. She stared at it, then at me. I can't take it. Why? Because it belongs to the version of us that no longer exists. She began crying harder. I still love you. I know. I still love parts of you too. She looked surprised. But love isn't enough anymore. What do you mean? I can forgive you. She held her breath. But rebuilding trust? I slowly shook my head. Is something I can't do. Those words broke the last piece of hope inside her. She lowered her head. So this is really goodbye. I nodded. You didn't lose me the day the investment disappeared. You lost me long before that. She whispered softly. When? The first time you chose silence while someone humiliated me. Her shoulders trembled. I wish I could change that night. I know, but none of us can change yesterday. The evening breeze passed between us. For the first time since we met, neither of us had another argument left. Only truth remained. She looked around the busy street. I've never felt this alone. I answered quietly. I know exactly how that feels. She slowly closed her fingers around the ring. I'm sorry you had to carry that loneliness by yourself. Thank you. Those two simple words ended years of unfinished conversations. I stepped backward. She didn't try to stop me. She finally understood. Some endings cannot be rewritten. As I turned away, she called my name one last time. Ethan. I stopped. I truly hope you find a happiness I couldn't give you. I smiled without looking back. I already have. I walked toward my car. Each step felt lighter than the one before. For years, I thought winning meant proving someone wrong. Now, I understood something different. Real victory was leaving without hatred. Real strength was choosing peace over revenge. By the time I reached home, I realized something else. For the first time in years, I wasn't angry anymore. The next morning I arrived at the office early. Sophia was already waiting with 2 cups of coffee. You look different. I feel different. She smiled. I was hoping you'd say that. Before I could answer, every television in the office switched to a live business broadcast. The reporter spoke with excitement. Breaking news this morning. James Walker has officially announced a global business competition worth $1 billion. Employees stopped walking. Everyone watched the screen. The reporter continued. Only one company will receive the historic contract, making this the largest private investment opportunity of the decade. Sophia looked at me. I looked back at the television. Without saying a word, we both understood the same thing. A new battle had just begun. The morning after James Walker announced the billion-dollar competition, I walked into our office with a feeling I had not experienced in years. Hope. Sophia looked up from her desk and smiled. You look ready. I am. For what? For a future that finally belongs to me. She laughed. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. We walked into the conference room where our small team was already waiting. Daniel stood beside the presentation screen. Noah's making coffee, he joked. Right on cue, my brother entered carrying a tray. I heard my name. Everyone laughed. It felt strange. Not because people were laughing, because nobody was laughing at me. Sophia clapped her hands together. Let's begin. Daniel pointed toward the screen. The competition isn't only about profit. The judges want leadership. They want innovation. They want trust. I nodded. Then we won't pretend to be something we're not. Sophia smiled. We'll simply tell the truth. For the next several weeks, our office became a second home. Every idea mattered. Every opinion was heard. When someone disagreed, nobody felt insulted. Instead, we asked questions. We searched for better answers together. One afternoon, Noah looked at me and smiled. I haven't seen you this happy in years. I didn't realize how unhappy I was before. You carried everything alone. I thought I had to. You never did. His words stayed with me. That was the biggest difference between my old life and my new one. Before, I was expected to save everyone. Now, people stood beside me. Not behind me. Not above me. Beside me. A week later, Daniel entered my office, holding a newspaper. You should see this. I looked at the front page. Hayes Corporation continues losing investor confidence. I sighed. How bad is it? Daniel sat down. Victoria fired Liam. I heard. But rebuilding trust is much harder than removing one dishonest employee. I nodded. Trust doesn't return overnight. No, it has to be earned. He looked at me. Do you feel sorry for her? I thought carefully. I feel sad. But I don't regret walking away. Daniel smiled. That's called healing. A few days before the competition, Sophia found me reviewing financial reports late at night. Go home. I'm almost finished. You've said that 3 times. I laughed. Old habits. She sat across from me. Ethan. Yes. If we lose, we'll try again. If we win, we'll stay humble. She smiled. Exactly. I never want success to change who we are. It won't. Promise? I promise. Competition day finally arrived. The convention center was filled with reporters, investors, and business leaders from around the world. Large screens displayed the names of every finalist. Among them stood 2 familiar names. Bennett Capital, Hayes Corporation. My heart remained calm. Months ago, simply seeing Victoria would have shaken me. Today, I only want to do my best. Backstage, I noticed Victoria standing alone with her presentation folder. She looked toward me. For a brief moment our eyes met. She walked closer. Good luck. I smiled politely. You too. She hesitated. Thank you. For what? For showing me what leadership should have looked like. I didn't know how to answer, so I simply nodded. When her turn came, Victoria walked onto stage. She spoke honestly. She admitted past mistakes. She explained how Hayes Corporation planned to rebuild trust through stronger ethics and better accountability. The audience listened respectfully. When she finished, they applauded. Sophia looked at me. She's changed. I think she has. Does it hurt? No, it makes me happy. Then my name was called. I walked onto the stage. Hundreds of faces looked back at me. The lights were bright. The room was silent. I smiled. Good afternoon. My name is Ethan Carter. I spent years believing leadership meant carrying every burden alone. I was wrong. I looked toward my team. Today I stand here because people believed in me. They challenged me. They respected me. They trusted me. I pointed toward our presentation. Our company isn't built on one person. It's built on honesty. It's built on transparency. It's built on listening before speaking. It's built on earning trust instead of demanding it. I explained our investment strategy. I answered difficult questions. When a judge asked about Hayes Corporation, the room became quiet. You worked there. What makes your company different? I smiled. I didn't come here to criticize anyone. I came here to prove what my team can achieve. The future should never depend on tearing someone else down. It should depend on building something worth believing in. The judges exchanged quiet glances. I could see approval in their expressions. When our presentation ended, the applause felt louder than I expected. As I walked off the stage, Sophia hugged me. You were incredible. We all were. Daniel shook my hand. I'm proud of you. Noah laughed. I told everyone my little brother would steal the show. For the first time, I believed him, not because I needed praise, because I finally believed in myself. That evening, every finalist gathered inside the grand ballroom. Reporters lined the walls. Television cameras pointed toward the stage. James Walker stepped behind the podium. He adjusted the microphone and looked across the crowded room. Ladies and gentlemen, the judges have reached their final decision. My heartbeat grew louder. James slowly opened a sealed envelope. He smiled. And now, I am honored to announce the winner of the $1 billion international partnership. The entire room held its breath. The ballroom was so quiet that I could hear my own heartbeat. James Walker looked across the audience before opening the envelope. He smiled. The winner of the $1 billion international partnership is... He paused. Bennett Capital. For 1 second, I couldn't move. Then the room exploded with applause. Sophia grabbed my arm. We did it. Daniel laughed. I knew you would. Noah wrapped me in a hug. I'm proud of you, little brother. I smiled through watery eyes. We all earned this. James walked toward us and shook my hand. Congratulations, Mr. Carter. Thank you. I believed in your work years ago. I'm grateful you gave me the chance to prove it. He nodded. You didn't just build a successful company. You built one people can trust. Those words meant more than the trophy waiting on the stage. As cameras flashed around us, I looked across the ballroom. Victoria stood quietly beside her team. She wasn't crying. She wasn't angry. She simply watched. For the first time, I saw a complete understanding in her eyes. She wasn't watching money disappear. She was watching the life we could have shared disappear forever. Later that evening, she walked over. Congratulations. Thank you. You deserve this. I smiled politely. So, did your team? She looked down. I spent years chasing success. I thought money could replace everything. She looked back at me. I finally understand. What? My greatest loss wasn't the investment. It wasn't the company. It was you. I stayed silent. She continued. I had someone who loved me without conditions. I traded him for my own pride. I'll regret that for the rest of my life. I gently nodded. I hope one day you forgive yourself. She smiled sadly. I hope so, too. She extended her hand. Friends. I shook it. Peace. She understood the difference. That was enough. Over the following months, life continued moving forward. The billion-dollar partnership transformed our company. We hired talented people who shared our values. Every meeting began with one simple promise. We succeed together. Nobody fought for attention. Nobody stole another person's work. Respect became our strongest investment. Daniel officially joined us as senior advisor. One afternoon, he laughed during a meeting. You know what I enjoy most? What? Nobody here is pretending to be the smartest person in the room. Sophia smiled. That's because we're all still learning. Noah leaned back in his chair. And because Ethan finally lets other people help him. Everyone laughed. So that's my reputation now? It should be, Noah replied. You've earned it. Meanwhile, Hayes Corporation slowly rebuilt itself. The company survived, but it never regained the influence it once had. Too many investors had lost confidence. Too many promises had been broken. Victoria worked harder than ever. This time she listened before speaking. She thanked employees publicly. She admitted mistakes openly. People noticed. Some returned. Many did not. She accepted that rebuilding trust takes longer than losing it. One morning, Daniel entered my office carrying another newspaper. You want to see this? I looked at the headline. Former executive Liam Brooks arrested following financial fraud investigation. I read the article quietly. Olivia's investigation had uncovered years of stolen company funds, hidden accounts, false invoices, leaked confidential information. Everything Liam denied had finally been proven. Justice had arrived without my help. I folded the newspaper. I don't feel happy. Daniel nodded. I didn't expect you would. I only feel relieved. That's because revenge was never your goal. He was right. A week later, I received an unexpected invitation. Richard Hayes wanted to meet. We chose a quiet cafe. As soon as he sat down, he looked at me with tired eyes. I owe you an apology. You don't owe me anything. I do. He sighed. I watch people disrespect you. I stayed silent. I told myself I was keeping the peace. I was really avoiding conflict. I smiled gently. You can't change the past. No, but I can thank you. For what? For leaving with dignity. You could have destroyed our family. You never tried. I only wanted my self-respect back. He nodded, and you got it. Before leaving, he shook my hand. I hope life gives you everything you deserve. It already has. A few days later, another surprise arrived. Margaret Hayes asked to see me. I almost declined. Instead, I agreed. She looked very different from the proud woman I remembered. Ethan, Mrs. Hayes. She lowered her eyes. I judge you by your clothes, by your salary, by your family name. She took a deep breath. I should have judged you by your character. I remained quiet. I was wrong. I know saying sorry doesn't erase anything. It doesn't, but I appreciate your honesty. She nodded. Victoria wasn't the only one who failed you. I know. We ended the conversation peacefully. There was nothing left to argue about. Time continued moving forward. Sophia and I spent more time together. There were no rushed promises, no impossible expectations. One evening we stood on the balcony outside our office after everyone else had gone home. She smiled. You've been smiling a lot lately. I've noticed. What's changed? I looked across the city lights. I stopped trying to prove my worth. You already knew it. No, I finally believed it. She gently took my hand. We'll keep building this together, one step at a time, one honest step at a time. I smiled. I like that. Months later, I stood alone on the balcony of my new office. The wind moved gently across the city below. I remembered the night I was told to sit with the household staff. I remembered every insult, every sacrifice, every lonely drive home. For a long time, I thought revenge would heal those wounds. I was wrong. Revenge never healed me. Choosing self-respect did. Walking away did. Forgiving without returning did. I looked at the sunrise and smiled. Not because Victoria had failed. Not because Liam had been punished. Not because I had become successful. I smiled because I had finally become the man I was always meant to be. A man who understood that real wealth is respect. Real love is built on honesty. Real victory is walking away from people who never saw your true worth. That was the ending I had searched for all along. And this time, it truly belonged to me.